Okay, I'd like to show you what's called the greatest integer function, and we're going to try and graph it. But it's one of these functions really strange in math because of the way it's defined. We use a double bracket around an x, and whenever you see that, that means we're talking about the greatest integer less than or equal to x. Now before I even begin, let's just remember what an integer is. An integer are all the numbers like, let's say, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, continuing in both directions forever. So those are what all the integers are. So if we're asked, let's say, to find the greatest integer of, let's say, 2.3, what we're saying is what is the greatest integer that we can find that's less than or equal to that number, 2.3. So if we look at it like on a number line, here's 2.3. Think of the integer over on that side, which is 3. And think of the integer to the left of it, which is 2. So we're looking for the biggest integer we can find that's less than this, which means to the left of it. And the greatest integer we're going to find is going to be 2. Now, that's the answer. What if we said the greatest integer function of, let's say, 5? Well, the greatest integer function at 5, if we look at 5, well, 5 is an integer. So if we're asked to find the greatest integer less than or equal to 5, well, 5 itself is an integer, so the answer is 5. So this is the basic story. If what you're plugging in is an integer, your answer is just that. If you're plugging a number that's not an integer, then you're looking for the integer to the left of it. Let's do one more here. The greatest integer of -3.2. This one's a little tricky. The best thing to do is to get a number line. Here's -3.2. The number that's to the right of it is -3, and the number that's to the left of it is -4. And since we're looking for the greatest integer less than or equal to it, we're looking at the one to the left, so the answer here is actually -4. That's a little tricky. Okay, now getting to the graph of this, let me go ahead and erase this. For the graph of the greatest integer function, what we can do is we can say, okay, well look, we're plugging in something and it's giving us something back. So if we plug in 0 into the greatest integer function, the answer should be 0 because, like I said, if you plug in an integer, it's going to give you back that same integer. So at 0, we should be at 0. At 1, where should we be? Well, 1 is an integer, so we should be at 1. At 2, 2 is an integer, so we should be up here at 2. So at every integer, it's just, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. The question is, what's happening between here and here? So let's say if we plugged in something like 1/2. Well, if you look on the number line, what is the integer to the left of that? Well, 0. So at 1/2, we're at 0. If you plug in another integer, like let's say 1/4, well, what's the integer that's to the left of 1/4? 0 again. So at 1/4, we're at 0. So anything in here is going to be 0. Until we get to 1, there's an open circle, and it jumps up to 1. Then, if you plug in 1.5, the integer to the left of 1.5 is 1. So again, you're up at 1. And it would do this, and then it would continue this pattern. The way that I like to think about it is like birthday. When somebody's like, when their birthday comes, and let's say their birthday happened 2 months ago, right? You would say, let's say they're like 2 years old, right? And their birthday happened 2 months ago. You don't go tell people, oh, I'm 2 years and 2 months or something like that. You say, I'm 2 years old, right? Until you turn 3, and then you say you're 3 years old. So it's kind of like this. When you have your first birthday, you're 1 year old, all the way until you have your second birthday, then you're 2 years old, all the way until you have your third birthday, then you're 3, and it continues up like that. Now going backwards, we can just kind of look at the pattern and just continue the pattern. So we're going to have an open circle, it'll go back like this, it'll drop down, open circle, go back, solid, drop down again. So this is what's known as a step function. The greatest integer function is what's an example of what's called a step function. And that's just a basic introduction to it.